I was 13 years old. I had a long commute to school, bus, train, another bus, every morning. I never thought about safety. Public transit was busy. People everywhere. One morning, a construction worker started talking to me. Nice at first. Compliments on my bag, my jacket. I didn't think much of it. I was easy to talk to. Then things got weird. He started saying I had pretty eyes, a cute smile. I began avoiding him. He disappeared for a few days. I thought I was in the clear. Then he came back, sat next to me, tapped my shoulder, and asked me a question I still hear in my nightmares. What would you do if I tied you up and never let you go? When I switched schools, I didn't realize how much longer the commute would be. Instead of one bus, I had to take a bus, a train, and then another bus. I had to leave my house around 7 a.m. if I wanted to be there by 8:30. I was 13, a kid. My parents were at work by then. I handled it myself. Never thought twice about safety. The trains and buses were crowded in the morning. People everywhere. What could happen? After getting off the train, I had to cross a big bridge to reach the area with the bus routes. 3 major buses passed through there. It didn't matter which one I got on, they all passed my school before splitting off in different directions. I did this every morning. Same routine, same stops, same faces. That's where I first saw him. He was a construction worker. Mid-30s, rough hands, work boots, the kind of guy you see on job sites before the sun comes up. He was waiting for a bus, too. At first, he was just friendly, small talk. Crazy weather we're having. The buses are always late. I was a chatty kid. I didn't think anything of it. Then he started seeing me more often. He'd be there when I got off the train. Every morning, he'd smile, wave, walk over. Nice bag, he said one day. Cool jacket another day. Innocent things. Compliments on my clothes, my stuff. Nothing that raised red flags. I was 13. I didn't know what red flags looked like. But then the compliments changed. He started noticing me, not my clothes, me. You have pretty eyes, he said one morning. I didn't know what to say. I was a 13-year-old boy. I wasn't used to comments like that. I mumbled thanks and looked at my phone. Another morning, you have a really nice smile. I started avoiding him. I'd walk to the other side of the bus area, pretend I didn't see him, put my earbuds in and stare at the ground. He didn't approach for a few days. I thought it worked. I thought he got the message. I was wrong. I was sitting by myself, earbuds in, scrolling through my phone. The bus area was busy. People coming and going. Normal morning. Someone tapped my shoulder. I looked up. He was standing there, smiling. He sat down next to me like we were old friends. I was uncomfortable. My stomach was tight. I tried to be polite, but I was already planning how to get away. I stood up, started walking to the other side of the bus area. That's when he said it. Not loud, not aggressive. Just casual. Like he was asking for the time. What would you do if I tied you up and never let you go? I stopped walking. My brain froze. I turned to look at him. He was still smiling. Like he'd just asked me about the weather. I didn't answer. I just walked faster. He got up and started following me. I could hear his boots on the pavement behind me. Getting closer. 2 buses pulled in at the same time. I didn't think. I just moved. I got on the first one. He followed me on. I got off immediately and ran to the second bus. He didn't follow me that time. I don't know why. Maybe he didn't see me switch. Maybe he thought he'd made his point. I sat in the back of the bus, shaking, trying to figure out what just happened. I kept looking out the window, watching for him. He was gone. I went to school like nothing happened. I was a 13-year-old boy. I didn't think these things happened to guys. I didn't think it was serious. Nothing actually happened, right? He just said something creepy. That's all. I told my friends at lunch, told them about the guy, about what he said. I was downplaying it, laughing it off. Weird dude at the bus stop, am I right? My friends stared at me. No one laughed. Then one of my teachers overheard. The look on her face changed everything. She grabbed my arm, pulled me out of the cafeteria, walked me straight to the principal's office. I spent the entire first period telling my story to the principal and a police officer. My parents were confused at first. Why didn't I say something sooner? I didn't have an answer. I was 13. I didn't think it was a big deal. I was wrong. They drove me to school for the next few days. No more buses, no more trains. Then a police officer came to our house. He said they'd found the guy. Transit cameras picked him up. They tracked him down and talked to him. But there wasn't much they could do. He technically hadn't done anything illegal. No threats, no touching, just words. Creepy words, but words. The officer told him to stay away from me, said they'd be monitoring the station, told me to call 911 if I ever saw him again. I saw him 2 or 3 more times after that, standing at the bus stop, watching, but he never spoke to me again. Never even looked at me. I don't know what he wanted. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't switched buses that morning. I don't know if he was just a lonely guy with no social skills or if he was something worse. But I still think about what he said. What would you do if I tied you up and never let you go? The way he said it, the smile, the way he followed me, the way he watched. I think about it at 2 a.m. sometimes, when I can't sleep, when my brain won't shut up. I think about how close I came to something bad. How many mornings I stood there, alone, with him watching. And I think about how the police couldn't do anything, because he didn't do anything. Not yet. I'm older now. I don't take that bus route anymore. I don't live in that town. But sometimes, when I'm in a crowd, I catch myself scanning faces, looking for him. I never saw him again after those last few mornings. I don't know if he moved away, found a new bus stop, found someone else. I hope not. But I know one thing. If someone had asked me that question now, I wouldn't freeze. I wouldn't laugh it off. I'd run. I'd scream. I'd call the police. Because I know now, when people act wrong, you don't wait to find out how wrong they can be.
Story 2. I lived in a shared house for 2 years. 5 people. Different rooms, different schedules. We were friendly but not close. We said hi in the hallway, sometimes shared a meal. Normal roommate stuff. One of my roommates was quiet, kept to himself, never bothered anyone. I barely noticed him. Then the notes started appearing under my door. At first, they were harmless. Good morning. Have a nice day. I thought maybe he was just awkward, trying to be friendly in his own way. Then the notes changed. I like the way you laugh. You look tired. You should sleep more. I know when you come home. I wait for you. I got a camera. Pointed it at my door. What I saw in that footage still makes my skin crawl. I moved into that house right after college. It was a big old place. 3 floors. 5 bedrooms. Cheap rent. The landlord was a nice older woman who lived in the basement apartment. The rest of us were tenants. My room was on the 2nd floor. Across the hall from mine was a guy we'll call Mark. He was maybe 30. Quiet. Kept his door closed. I never heard music from his room. Never heard him on the phone. Sometimes I wondered if he was even there. The first few months were fine. We'd pass each other in the hallway, nod, say hi. Nothing more. I worked long hours. Came home late. I didn't think about my roommates much. They were just background noise in my life. Then one morning, I found a piece of paper folded under my door. "Good morning. Hope you have a good day." I smiled. Thought it was nice. I assumed it was from one of the other roommates. Someone being friendly. I left a note under their door the next day. "Thanks. You too." The notes kept coming. Every morning, same handwriting. Neat. Blocky. Like a child learning to write. "I like your jacket. It looks good on you. You work too hard. You should rest." I started to feel strange about it. I asked the other roommates. No one knew who was leaving them. The landlord didn't know. I asked the guy across the hall. "Mark." He looked at me blankly. "No," he said. "Not me." He closed his door. I believed him. I didn't know why he'd lie. The notes kept coming. They started getting personal. "I like the way you laugh. It's musical. You look sad sometimes. I wish you would smile more." I stopped leaving notes back. I stopped smiling at him in the hallway. I stopped saying hi. He never seemed to notice. I bought a small security camera, pointed it at my door from inside my room. I wanted to see who was slipping notes under my door at night. The first night, nothing. Second night, nothing. The third night, I checked the footage. At 3:07 a.m., a figure appeared in the hallway. I watched him walk slowly toward my door. He stopped, bent down, slid something under the door. Then he stood up. He didn't leave. He stood there, facing my door. For 3 hours. I fast-forwarded. He stood there until 6:12 a.m. Then he walked back to his room. I sat in my chair, staring at the screen, trying to understand what I was seeing. He wasn't moving, just standing, facing my door. For hours. Every night. I checked the footage from previous nights. It was the same. He came to my door around 3 a.m. He stood there, sometimes for an hour, sometimes until dawn. Then he went back to his room and went to sleep. I called my landlord. She was horrified. She said she'd talked to him. The next morning, there was a note under my door. "Your landlord asked me to stop." I told her I would, but I won't. I can't stop watching you. I called the police. They came, took a report, looked at the footage. They talked to him. He told them he was just standing in the hallway. He wasn't trying to get in. He wasn't touching anything. He was just standing. There was no law against standing in a hallway. The police said he was right. They couldn't arrest him for standing. They couldn't charge him for leaving notes. Creepy notes, but not threatening. Not yet. They told me to call if anything changed. That night, I put a chair against my door. I didn't sleep. I watched the footage live on my phone. He came at 3:15 a.m. He stood there. I watched him. He watched my door. At 6 a.m., he went back to his room. I went to work. I was so tired I could barely stand. I started sleeping at friends' houses. Couch surfing. I told myself I was being dramatic. It was just a guy standing in a hallway. He wasn't breaking in. He wasn't threatening me. He was just there. But I couldn't shake the feeling. The way he stood, the hours, the notes. The way he knew when I came home, when I left, when I was sad, when I was tired. He was watching, all the time. One night, I came home late. I was exhausted. I didn't want to drive to another friend's house. I just wanted my bed. I opened the front door. The hallway was dark. I walked upstairs. His door was closed. I let out a breath, got to my room, locked the door, pushed the chair against it. I checked the footage in the morning. He came to my door at 3 a.m., stood there. At 5:47 a.m., He reached for the doorknob. He tried it. It was locked. He stood there for another hour. Then he left. I called the police. They came. They talked to him. He said he was just checking if I was okay. He was worried about me. He wanted to make sure I was safe. They told me to get a restraining order. I tried. The judge said there wasn't enough evidence. He hadn't threatened me. He hadn't tried to hurt me. He was just standing and checking a door. I was losing my mind. The next morning, I found a note under my door. You can't hide from me. I know where you sleep. I know where you work. I know your friends' houses. I will always find you. I didn't call the police. I didn't call my landlord. I called my brother. He came with his truck. We loaded my stuff in 30 minutes. I was out of that house by noon. I never went back. I never saw Mark again. I don't know if he still stands in that hallway. I don't know if he found someone else to watch. But I know this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when the police can't help you, when the system can't protect you, sometimes the only thing you can do is run. I still think about those nights. Standing in the hallway, hours of silence, the note under my door, the way he wrote about me like he knew me, like he owned me. I don't know what he wanted. I don't know how long it would have taken for him to stop standing and start doing something else. I don't know if I would have been there when he did. But I know I made the right choice. Leaving. Running. Not looking back. Because some people don't need to break down your door to get in. They just stand there, waiting, watching, until you let them in yourself. I didn't let him in. I left. And I never left a door unlocked again.
Story 3. I was 22 years old when I had surgery that left me paralyzed from the waist down for 3 weeks. Not permanently, just temporary. The doctors said my spine needed to heal. I was flat on my back, strapped to monitors, unable to move anything below my ribs. I couldn't turn my head, couldn't lift my arms, couldn't even press the call button without help. I was completely helpless, and someone knew it. He came every night around 2 a.m. He'd sit in the chair next to my bed and watch me sleep. I couldn't see his face. I couldn't turn my head. I could only see his hands in my peripheral vision. Large hands, pale, long fingers resting on his knees. The first night, I thought I was dreaming. The second night, I thought it was a nurse checking my vitals. By the 5th night, I knew it wasn't. It was supposed to be routine, a spinal fusion. I'd had back problems since I was a teenager, and finally, at 22, I was getting it fixed. The doctor said I'd be in the hospital for a week, then home for a month, then back to normal. They didn't tell me I'd wake up unable to feel my legs. They didn't tell me I'd be strapped to a bed with tubes coming out of my arms, a catheter, monitors beeping, a brace immobilizing my entire torso. They didn't tell me I wouldn't be able to wipe my own face if I was crying. I was in a private room. My parents visited during the day. My friends sent flowers. The nurses came in every few hours to check on me, adjust my meds, turn me so I wouldn't get bed sores. They were kind, professional. They wore scrubs and ID badges, and they always announced themselves when they came in. The day staff were great, the evening staff were fine, but the night staff, I never saw their faces clearly. The lights were dim, my eyes were heavy from the painkillers. I remember shadows, footsteps, voices that sounded like they were underwater, and then there was him. I woke up around 2 a.m. The room was dark. The monitors were beeping in their usual rhythm. I was groggy from the medication, my mouth dry, my head heavy. There was a man sitting in the chair next to my bed. I blinked. Tried to focus. My eyes were blurry. I could see his outline, large, broad shoulders, hands resting on his knees. He wasn't moving, just sitting there. Watching. I thought it was a nurse. I waited for him to say something, to check my IV, to adjust the bed, but he didn't move. He just sat there, in the dark. Watching. I must have fallen back asleep. When I woke up again, the chair was empty. I told the morning nurse about it. She checked the logs. No one had been in my room between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. Probably a dream, she said. The meds can do that. Vivid dreams. You're still healing. I nodded. She was probably right. But it happened again the next night. Same time. 2 a.m. I woke up, and he was there. Same chair. Same position. Hands on his knees. Watching. I tried to speak. My throat was dry. I couldn't get the words out. I tried to lift my arm to reach the call button. My arm wouldn't move. I tried to turn my head to see his face. My neck was immobilized by the brace. All I could see were his hands. Large hands, pale, long fingers. They didn't move. They just rested on his knees. I stared at them for what felt like hours, waiting for something. Anything. A word. A movement. A sign that he was real. He didn't move. He just sat there, watching. I must have fallen asleep again. When I woke, the chair was empty. This time, I didn't tell anyone. I was embarrassed. They'd think I was crazy. A 2-year-old woman, afraid of the dark, afraid of her own dreams. But on the fourth night, something changed. I woke up at 2 a.m. He was there, same chair, same hands. But this time, he wasn't sitting still. His fingers were moving, slowly, tapping on his knees, one by one. Thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky, then back again. Like he was counting or waiting. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. My throat was paralyzed with fear. He leaned forward. I couldn't see his face. The room was too dark. But I could feel him, closer now, leaning toward me. I could smell him. Cigarettes, coffee, something sweet underneath, like cologne. He whispered something. I couldn't hear the words, just the sound, low, rough, right next to my ear. Then he sat back, hands on his knees, watching. I lay there, frozen, staring at the ceiling, waiting for morning. I didn't sleep. I didn't close my eyes. I just watched his hands in my peripheral vision, waiting for them to move again. They didn't. He sat there until the sun started to rise. Then he stood up. I heard his footsteps on the linoleum. Slow, deliberate, walking toward the door. He stopped at the threshold. I could feel him looking back at me. One last time. Then he was gone. The next morning, I told my nurse everything. The man, the chair, the hands, the whisper. The way he sat there for hours, watching me sleep. She listened. Her face went pale. There's no one on staff who fits that description, she said. And no one should be in your room at night without checking in at the nurse's station. She checked the logs again. No one had entered my room between midnight and 6 a.m. The door had a magnetic lock. It recorded every time it opened. It hadn't opened. Not once. She said she'd have security review the cameras. She said they'd keep an eye on my room. She said I was safe. I didn't feel safe. That night, I tried to stay awake. I fought the medication. I stared at the door, waiting for it to open, waiting for him. But the painkillers were too strong. I drifted off around midnight. I woke up at 2 a.m. He was there. He was closer this time. Not in the chair. Standing next to my bed. His hands were on the bed rail. His fingers were inches from my arm. I could see more of him now. My eyes had adjusted to the dark. He was wearing dark clothes. A hoodie. The hood was up. I still couldn't see his face. Just shadows. He didn't sit down. He stood there, looking down at me. I tried to scream. My throat was dry. My lips wouldn't move. I tried to move my arm, to push the call button, to do anything. My body was a prison. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even close my eyes. He leaned down, closer this time. I could feel his breath on my cheek. Warm, steady, he whispered again. This time, I heard it. You're so quiet when you sleep. I closed my eyes. I don't know if I passed out or if my body just shut down. When I opened them again, the sun was rising. The room was empty. The chair was pushed against the wall. The bed rail was up. There was no sign that anyone had been there. But my pillow was wet. I'd been crying in my sleep. Security came that morning, 2 men in uniforms. They asked me questions. What did he look like? How tall? What was he wearing? Did I see his face? Did I hear his voice clearly? Could I identify him if I saw him again? I couldn't answer most of their questions. I hadn't seen his face. I hadn't heard his voice clearly. All I could describe were his hands. Large, pale, long fingers. They reviewed the security footage. There was nothing. The hallway cameras showed no one entering my room. The door logs showed no activity. The nurse's station had no record of anyone checking on me. But the security guard's face was white when he came back to my room. There's someone on the footage, he said. Walking the halls at night, wearing dark clothes, hood up. We can't see his face. We can't ID him. But he's there, every night, walking past your door. He paused, looked at me. He walks past your room at 2 a.m. every night. He stands at the door for a few minutes, then he walks away. We don't know how he's getting in. The doors are locked. The cameras don't show him entering, but he's there. I was transferred to a different floor that afternoon, a private room with a lock that only I could open. A nurse sat outside my door all night. I didn't see him again. I never found out who he was. The hospital investigated. They never identified the man in the hoodie. The security footage showed him walking the halls, standing outside my door, but never entering or leaving the building. It was like he appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. I was discharged a week later. I went home, I healed, I learned to walk again, but I still have nightmares. I still wake up at 2 a.m. sometimes, staring at the ceiling, waiting for hands to appear in my peripheral vision. I still smell cigarette smoke sometimes, coffee, something sweet underneath. I don't know what he wanted. I don't know why he chose me. I don't know how he got into my room night after night without anyone noticing. But I know one thing. When you're at your most vulnerable, there are people who will find you. And they won't help. They'll just watch. I'm 35 now. I have a daughter. She's 8. She had her tonsils out last year. I stayed in her room the whole night. Every night. I sat in the chair next to her bed, holding her hand, watching her sleep. I didn't want her to be alone. I didn't want someone to sit in the dark and watch her. I didn't want her to wake up with hands in her peripheral vision, not knowing if they were real or a dream. She was fine. She's always fine. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I still check the chair. I still listen for footsteps. I still feel, for just a second, that someone is standing behind me, watching. I turn around. No one's there. But I never sit in a hospital room alone again. And I never, ever let myself be that helpless. Because once you've been watched like that, you never forget what it feels like to be prey. To be helpless. To be nothing but a pair of eyes staring back at you from the dark.
3 stories, 3 people, 3 moments when someone wasn't who they seemed to be. A stranger at the bus stop, a roommate in the hallway, a shadow in a hospital room. All of them real. All of them happened. If you enjoyed this, hit like. Subscribe for more true stories. And if you have your own story, something that made you look over your shoulder, drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.